Nazi Germany, 1942. In this top-secret facility, Hitler's scientists are developing wonder weapons that he hopes will win him the war. Allied spy planes race to uncover the Nazis' secrets. It's a high-stakes cat-and-mouse game played out across these secret military sites. Now the Allies must stop Hitler before he rains down terror from above. In this series, we investigate the most extraordinary events of World War II from a brand new perspective. Matching rarely seen archive film, photography from the front line, and remarkable aerial reconnaissance images to their original locations. We reconstruct the crucial battles. Daring bombing raids and deadly terror weapons that changed the course of history. Soaring over the battlefields, we reveal the secrets of World War II from above. May 15th, 1942. A lone Allied reconnaissance Spitfire, flying a top-secret mission, approaches the northern coast of Germany. From above, the pilot takes this photograph. It shows three strange-looking circular emplacements on the ground near the village of Peenemünde. The Allies have no idea what they're for, but it's a mystery they're desperate to solve. In 1942, the Nazis occupy most of mainland Europe, but the tide of World War II is beginning to turn against Hitler. The Soviets have stopped the Nazi advance in the east, forcing the ill-clad troops to suffer a sub-zero Russian winter. In the west, the failed invasion of Britain has decimated the German Air Force. The Allies have been exploiting their dominance in the skies by flying hundreds of missions over Germany and relentlessly bombing cities, towns, and industry. Hitler wants revenge. The place that will deliver it is Peenemünde. In 1942, Peenemünde is a pioneering top-secret science facility. It's spread across a vast 25-square-kilometer site. Nazi investment here is unprecedented. An enormous coal crusher and loading bridge feeds the site's own power plant, the largest in Europe. It also has its own harbor, an airport, railway station, as well as laboratories, offices, and accommodation for the 12,000 personnel that work here. This huge workforce is developing the world's first weapons of mass destruction, called Vergeltungswaffen, or vengeance weapons. Hitler believes that if the top-secret research is successful, it could win the war. Historian Guy Walters explores the site to uncover its deadly secrets.
The scale of this place is absolutely vast. It lacks for nothing. And the reason why is that Hitler was just pumping so much cash into this project because he knew that if it was going to work, it could turn the tide of war in his favour.
One of these trailblazing weapons soars 14 meters tall and weighs almost 14 tons. It's a liquid-fueled rocket packed with high explosives.
These weapons look like nothing anybody has ever seen before. They're like something out of a science fiction magazine. These are completely radical, completely modern. They could be absolutely devastating if they're unleashed.
Hitler demands these vengeance weapons should be capable of striking London from mainland Europe, about 250 kilometers away. For this reason, his rocket is packed with pioneering technology.
If we start from the bottom, you've got the fins. That's obviously going to help keep it stable when it's in flight. And then you've got the engine, which is kind of like the bottom third. And above that, you've got two tanks. You've got a liquid oxygen tank, and then you've got an alcohol and water tank. In fact, it's only the very top in which you've got the warhead.
2 turbo pumps will force 58 kilograms of alcohol to mix with 72 kilograms of liquid oxygen in the combustion chamber every single second. The reaction unleashed should be powerful enough to launch the 1-ton warhead into the sky and onto its target. But this is highly complicated, cutting-edge research. It is rocket science. The Germans meticulously film their progress. The pressure is now on the scientists to master this futuristic and terrifying new technology. Their first tests proved disastrous. At least 8 rockets explode on the launch pad. But eventually, their hard work starts to pay off. The Nazi commanders are desperate to keep their progress a secret. But Peenemünde has an Achilles heel. The billowing plumes of smoke from its power plant are a telltale giveaway to Allied spy planes.
It would be belching out fumes 24 hours a day, and it would be producing all the energy that was powering those factories, making vital components for the rocket program.
German scientists devise an innovative solution to conceal its secrets. They equip the chimneys with special electrostatically charged metal plates that remove 90% of the coal particles it creates, significantly reducing the visible smoke. Of the enormous 30 megawatts the power plant produces, almost 3/4 is consumed by this factory. Here, they produce liquid oxygen, the key ingredient needed to generate enough thrust to launch the rocket straight into the stratosphere and onto its target, London.
This weapon is not just a vengeance weapon, it's also a kind of wonder weapon. It's like something out of the future. It travels at 5 times the speed of sound. What does that mean? It means that it's going to blow up before you've even heard it coming.
The ambition of this weapons program is extraordinary, and progress is rapid. Hitler is thrilled.
Sie wollen es! Sie sollen es haben! Sie wollen Deutschland durch den Luftkrieg vernichten. Ich werde Ihnen jetzt zeigen, wer vernichtet wird.
If everything stays on track, in a matter of months, Hitler's terror rockets will be raining down on London. While the Nazis pioneer rocket science, the Allies race to decode their mysterious findings from May 1942. Desperate to uncover Hitler's secrets from above, they redouble their efforts to spy on Peenemünde. Flying so far into enemy territory is dangerous, but they have their own special weapon that's perfect for the job. The Spitfire, the most iconic aircraft of World War II. Its thin, elliptical-shaped wings and powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine make the Spitfire the fastest and most nimble plane in the sky. Pilot Barry Hughes has been flying for 30 years, but the Spitfire has a special place in his heart.
I've flown a multitude of aircraft, but I think this has to come in as the top dog. It's got everything that you would want as a pilot, you know, performance, maneuverability, ability to produce lift over the elliptical wing surface. Everything about the aircraft is something that you love.
The Spitfire was designed as a fighter plane. But in 1942, the RAF has stripped out all the weapons and radios from a small fleet of aircraft. They've removed every gram of excess weight so the planes can hold more fuel and extend their range. Instead of guns, they arm each Spitfire with 2 cameras to photograph Peenemünde and the growing Nazi war machine across Europe. Taking these vital images is fraught with peril. The pilots have to navigate on their own and position the Spitfire directly above the target. The framing of each photograph has to be precise. They must fly straight and level to ensure the images aren't distorted.
The Spitfire is a very high-performance dynamic aircraft. To hold the aircraft level, you are just consistently making minor adjustments all the time to keep the aircraft stable.
Without any armaments, the pilots must rely on the Spitfire's incredible maneuverability and speed, combined with their own skill to evade enemy fighters.
What the Spitfire had is that ability to evade. The reconnaissance aircraft, you needed to get to where you wanted to go to take the pictures, and then turn around and get home quickly.
The moment the plane lands back in England, it's a race to retrieve the evidence captured by its cameras. The reels of film are quickly collected, developed, and sent for detailed analysis at RAF Medmenham. 50 kilometers west of London, the Allied commanders have requisitioned the splendid stately home of Danesfield House. In 1943, this is the headquarters for Allied photographic intelligence. The grounds around the house have been transformed into a makeshift town, covered with temporary military buildings. It is here that a crack team of investigators work round the clock in absolute secrecy. Their mission is to create a new science of photographic interpretation to hunt down Hitler's vengeance weapons. Alan Williams is the director of the National Collection of Aerial Photography. He studies thousands of wartime reconnaissance images.
The aerial photography that was analysed here at RAF Medmenham was irrefutable. the photograph doesn't lie. By taking a sequence of aerial photographs over time, that chronological analysis allowed the Allies to understand the threat the Vengeance weapons represented.
Inside this stately home, the Allied intelligence teams perfect an innovative and top-secret technique. The first step is to lay out the photos as they were captured during the reconnaissance flight. Next, they use a simple piece of kit called a stereoscope to reveal previously hidden secrets in these photos from above. Everything has to be perfectly configured.
I'm taking two overlapping aerial photographs. Taking the one on the left, I'm viewing a location through the left eyepiece, and in the right eyepiece on the successive frame, I'm looking at the same location.
The stereoscope works by exploiting a quirk of the human brain, where viewing exactly the same location in each eye from a slightly different perspective turns the landscape 3D, bringing to life every bulge and bump on the site. The interpreters at RAF Medmenham use their ingenious technique on this photograph, taken on the 23rd of June, 1943. It reveals a shocking and undeniable image in 3D. Two of Hitler's deadly rockets. As soon as news of the rockets reaches London, Churchill orders Peenemünde to be bombed. The RAF prepares for the largest bombing raid of the war against a single target so far. On the night of the 17th of August 1943, 596 aircraft depart. Their aim is to obliterate Peenemünde and kill as many of the key personnel working there as possible. Accuracy is vital to this mission, so the bombers fly at below half the normal altitude, at 2,500 meters. This makes the crews far more vulnerable to the anti-aircraft guns that protect the site. Cameras on the planes captured the RAF dropping over 1,800 tons of bombs. The next morning, the reconnaissance images reveal Peenemünde littered with craters. But despite the site looking like a moonscape, the Nazis managed to save the key technology and start production on other sites. Only one notable German scientist dies in the bombing, far fewer than hoped. On top of that, the raid has cost the Allies 215 aircrew and 40 bombers. Another discovery soon makes matters even more challenging for the Allies. Aerial reconnaissance pilots spy a new German facility, tantalizingly close to London, near the French village of Watton. The Germans are concealing it deep in the woods. They are even building a dedicated railway line to and around the construction site. In 1943, this complex is a building site and buzzes with activity. A huge web of scaffolding has been erected by an army of laborers. 4,000 workers arrive here every day to build this huge concrete edifice in the forest of Epelec. A smaller railway hauls materials around the site, including concrete, timber, and steel. They use heavy machinery, so they can build at unprecedented size and speed. Only one weapon could command construction on this complexity and scale. Hitler's vengeance rocket from Peenemünde. Structural engineer Zeynep Adigan examines the site to investigate how the Nazis use concrete and steel to protect their vengeance weapons.
Look at that. Look at that. These are like H40 diameter bars, really thick. It makes sense because the minimum area of steel you need on concrete is dictated by the depth. So obviously you'd need these kind of big bars because the walls were so thick.
The engineers plan to reinforce the launch facility with walls 3 meters wide and a roof 5 meters thick. To build it, the Germans used 200,000 tons of concrete and 20,000 tons of steel.
You can just tell in terms of the volume of concrete and the amount of steel that what the Germans were trying to protect here was something really, really important to them.
The Germans plan to launch up to 36 explosive-filled rockets every day from this site. This is how it will work. The railway will transport the rockets into the facility. A heavily reinforced hall will store up to 108 rockets at one end of the building. Technicians will move the rockets to a servicing hall and fill them with fuel and liquid oxygen from the site's own production plant. From the control tower, scientists will then observe the rockets being moved out to the firing pads, where they will take deadly aim onto their target. The Germans are constructing this enormous edifice to be literally bomb-proof.
Having a look at the structure and how thick the walls are and the amount of concrete they've used, it'll be virtually impossible to penetrate them.
So, how can the Allies break the unbreakable? The Allies desperately search for a chink in the Nazis' armor. Leading British civil engineers have a flash of inspiration. They realize that an attack might work if they hit just after the concrete has been poured, but before it's hardened. They continue flying aerial reconnaissance missions to spot this key moment. On the 21st of August 1943, the Allies receive the news they are hoping for. Workers have erected wooden molds ready for the concrete walls to be poured. Now is the time to strike. Allied Bomber Command orders an urgent raid. B-17 Flying Fortresses drop 366 one-ton bombs on the site. Where the bombs hit the freshly poured concrete, there is total devastation. The concrete hardens, freezing in time the chaos and destruction of the daring bombing raid.
Having the idea of bombing the structure just after the concrete had been poured is very clever because it was your Achilles heel. It's your last opportunity to really cause as much damage to the structure as you can. One, you have the impact that the bomb has on the structure. It starts to weaken the structure. But on top of that, you've left behind a concrete chaos. Because once the concrete is hardened, it's very difficult because you cannot move it, you can't salvage it. It's a waste of material.
The bombs turn the launch facility into a pile of shattered steel and timber, solidified in concrete. Crucially, they destroy the railway, cutting off access to the site. For now, the threat of Hitler's terror rockets is neutralized. His dream of vengeance looks more remote than ever. But for the Nazis, all is not lost. In Peenemünde, in secret, a second vengeance weapon is taking shape. It's smaller than the rocket, but packs in almost the same explosive power and is another world first. The flying bomb.
The flying bomb is essentially the world's earliest cruise missile. It really appeals to the Nazis. Why? Because they're beginning to lack the manpower. Pilots need to be trained. It costs a lot of time and money to do that. So if you've got a weapon that doesn't require human beings on board, that's a massive advantage. At the front, you have the compass. That's obviously going to help guide it. Then you've got the wings, which are made out of plywood, so it's really cheap and easy to manufacture. And then at the back, you've got the telltale shape of the pulse jet engine that's going to whoosh the bomb along at 350 miles an hour.
Instead of a pilot, the flying bomb has a simple guidance system. Two spherical tanks that contain compressed air, drive gyroscopes, and operate pneumatic motors. These control the rudder and elevator, regulating the flying bomb's altitude and bearing. In the nose, a magnetic compass floats inside a wooden bowl. It keeps the warhead on track to hit its target. For it to fly, the bomb needs a strong airflow through the engine and over its wings. So the Germans build a huge catapult to launch it. Once in the air, this groundbreaking weapon can reach 560 kilometers per hour. The first models have a range of 240 kilometers, far enough to strike London. If launched from here in France. The Nazis begin constructing multiple catapult ramps. Viewing from above reveals how each ramp is part of a network of buildings, including a command bunker, steam generator station, assembly halls, and strange structures shaped like skis. The concrete ski-shaped buildings are used to store the flying bombs. Their curved entrances are designed to deflect the blast from any Allied bombs exploding outside. Two parallel walls, filled with gravel, offer extra protection. German soldiers transport the flying bombs from the ski-shaped buildings to the launch catapults. The 48-meter-long metal rails sit between two concrete walls. Steam pressure shoots the flying bomb up the ramp. By the time it reaches the end of the rails, the bomb hits takeoff speed. As the Nazis build more of these structures, a French resistance agent called Michel Aulard disguises himself as a construction worker and infiltrates one of the sites to investigate what they're for. He reports back to the British that he suspects the ramps are for launching secret weapons. But the Allied intelligence services are completely puzzled. They have no idea how these structures could pose a threat to Britain. The Allies finally find an answer at Peenemünde. On the 28th of November, 1943, a reconnaissance pilot flying over Hitler's weapons research facility takes this photo. Back at RAF Medmenham, the photographic interpreters get to work deciphering the detail in the image.
This one photograph was arguably one of the most important photographs of the Second World War. That is literally what was spotted. That tiny cruciform shape at the end of my finger. A flying bomb on a ramp at Peenemünde. That was the final piece in the jigsaw. Here was the evidence of why these ramps were being built.
At last, the Allies make the crucial connection between the flying bomb, Peenemünde, and the ski sites in France, around 900 kilometers away. The more the Allies look, the more they find, plotting their orientation as they go and discovering new ski sites on an almost daily basis. By the end of the month, the Allies uncover a total of 96 ski sites, and almost all point at London. On the 13th of June, 1944, in revenge for the D-Day landings 1 week earlier, the first flying bomb that Hitler launches tears through the skies above London. It maneuvers into a steep dive. And hits this railway bridge, crossing Grove Road in East London. The explosion kills 6 people, injures 42, and makes hundreds homeless. Hitler gets his first taste of vengeance. The flying bomb is named the V1. The distinctive sound of the V1's pulse jet engine as it roars over London earns it the nickname Doodlebug or Buzz Bomb. For Londoner Eddie Moss, the noise incites fascination and fear.
Like motorbikes coming in the sky, with that one engine popping away at the back. But it was a bomb.
The sound of the V1 becomes an almost daily occurrence for Nancy Gentile.
I was always terrified of that noise. You hear this throb, throb, throb. It fills you. You can't think of anything else. Mostly we were terrified it would stop. The moment it stopped, we knew somebody was going to be for it.
Bomb after bomb rained down on London and across the south of England. They raze entire streets to the ground in a single strike. One man comes home from walking his dog to find his house hit, with his wife killed inside it. At the peak of the offensive, the Germans launched 200 flying bombs at the capital every day. The British desperately need to find a way to counteract Hitler's new terror weapon. East of London, they devise a plan to re-engineer their air defense stations. One of these stations sits in the middle of the Thames estuary. A closer look at these murky waters reveals 7 steel towers. They loom over 25 meters above the surface of the water. Their concrete legs splay into the seabed. This is Red Sand Sea Fort. The forts were originally built to protect London from the Luftwaffe. Now they lie directly below the flight path of many of the incoming V-1 flying bombs. Back-to-back light anti-aircraft guns, called Bofors, stand on one of the towers. A semicircle of 4 additional heavy anti-aircraft guns surround a central control tower equipped with radar. Tubular steel walkways connect the structures and stretch all the way out to a searchlight tower. The searchlight tower is positioned to the north, so it can spot the incoming threat from the south. The gun crews need quick access to the ammunition, so they store the shells inside these special lockers on the edge of the platforms, directly above the living quarters for the crew stationed here. Military historian Alexandra Churchill explores Red Sand Sea Fort.
This is very exciting. It really does look like something from War of the Worlds. Weird little aliens sat there. It's just so out of place. For the crew on the forts, I'm guessing it was very boring. Not only are you bored and isolated, but you're under a lot of pressure as well. I can imagine the longer you spent on them, the more your mental health broke down. It's a weird environment.
In 1944, crews are brought in by boat and stationed at the fort for 6 weeks. Life in these towers is very cramped. Beneath the platforms, 181 crew must cram into tiny accommodation blocks.
This is going to be the control tower here, and then you've got gun towers. This here, this has got a different roof, so this is the Bofors one, I think, because it's different.
The crew operate the gun towers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For much of the time, they just wait and watch.
It's like nothing, 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 nothing. You have nothing to do for 90% of the time. But when you are called upon, you need to be amazing. You know it's aimed at civilians. Can you imagine pressure? You know where it's going. If you hit one, utter jubilation. If you missed one and it carried on flying, utter utterly gut-wrenching. You failed.
As a backup, the RAF dispatches Spitfires to intercept the V1s. Striking a flying bomb, speeding through the air at 560 kilometers per hour, is no simple task for a Spitfire pilot. They almost have to defy the laws of physics.
If you were an RAF pilot, the best way to catch up with it is to get up really, really high and then drop like a stone and use gravity to get you up to the kind of speed that you need.
As seen in this incredible photo, once alongside, the daring pilot uses their wing to tip the wing of the V1 flying bomb, forcing it to nosedive.
You have to be really good at precision flying. You've got to have some level of guts to do that.
But just as the Allies begin to find ways to take out the V1s, Nazi scientists finally perfect Hitler's futuristic terror rocket. On the 18th of June 1944, it becomes the first man-made object ever to enter space. The rocket is named the V2. The Germans soon work out how to launch the V2 rocket from the back of a truck. Now Hitler's terror rockets can be launched from any road, making them truly invulnerable to all countermeasures. On the 8th of September 1944, at 6:40 p.m., the first unstoppable V2 rocket hits West London on Staveley Road in Chiswick. 3 people immediately die from the blast. Hitler gets his vengeance. A campaign of terror has begun. The Nazis launch almost 7,000 V1 flying bombs and almost 1,400 V2 rockets at Britain. Over the coming months, the British refine their countermeasures against the V1. In the southeast of England, they position additional anti-aircraft guns along the coast. They float over 1,200 balloons, suspending steel cables which are close enough to collide with the approaching V1 flying bombs. Eventually, they manage to shoot down 80% of the flying bombs the Nazis launch across the Channel. Mercifully for these Londoners, the launch sites for both of Hitler's vengeance weapons are pushed further and further out of range after the success of the D-Day landings and subsequent advances of the Allied forces. On the 27th of March 1945, the last V weapons strike British soil. The Nazi wonder weapons have come just too late to turn the tide of the war. The Allies stop Hitler's plot for vengeance, and with it, his hopes for victory lie in ruins.